Of course, we have many other activities against this injustice. Another example is what happened in this area, which is a village called Walaje. And the army, there is a very important church there called Kremizan Church. They have a very good winery, by the way, and they produce good wine. And the army has put a very big checkpoint and gate to block the ability of the church to reach its land, and to block another village called Walaje from reaching Bethlehem, and practically to block the free movement to the city. So for 2 years, people were demonstrating there, and peacefully and non-violently, and nothing changed. A month ago, we decided to take the matter in our own hand. So we, with other young people, and also many international solidarity people, we just went there, took off the gate, and threw it in the valley, and opened the road to Bethlehem. And the army came back, of course, later, but I think they put the gate in a wrong way anyhow, so the road is still open. And that's one example of resilience, of course, and of people deciding to take the matter in their own hands. I don't want you to feel, to get from this talk the sense that we are depressed about what the Israeli army is doing only. No. They're actually, regardless of all this injustice and all this humiliation and all this suffering, the real story about Palestine is a fantastic story of resilience and determination. And I want to show you just a few examples of how we managed to do many things, positive things, constructive things, regardless of the terrible situation we live in. This is one example. This young man is called Mustafa too. He's from a village called Aboud. He was born as a normal boy, and then he developed a serious disease, and then he got disabled completely. He can move only his head. He's having quadriplegia. Both arms and legs cannot move. And he would have been doomed to death, actually, if it wasn't for the work of Palestinian Medical Relief Society, which I have the honor of being one of the founders of and participating in its work. This medical relief organization organizes a program called community-based rehabilitation for people with disability. And although we were not registered for 20 years because the Israeli government would not accept to recognize our presence, we worked and built some of the best models for health development probably in the world, for which we received in 2001 the World Health Organization Award for Best Models of Development. In this case, this young man was followed by the volunteers and the community health workers. His family was trained how to take care of him. He was helped to go to school, normal school, integrated completely in a normal school. The students were worked with, his teachers, they were worked with, and they all became a support system to this wonderful young man. So he made it all the way to the 10th class. When a student has to make a choice whether to go into scientific branch or literature branch. And everybody assumed that this boy will go into literature branch because it's easier. Of course, he said, no, I want to go into science. So the team worked with him to go into science. Then he reached the 12th grade, and he had to pass the state exam. But he couldn't write, of course. So we called the Minister of Education and told her, you have to help. She agreed to send 2 teachers to help him write what he knows. And he passed the exam getting 87%. Then he declared he wants to study physics. Today, he is in his 3rd year in Birzeit University studying theoretical physics. And his role model is nobody but Professor Hawking, of course, from Britain. And he wants to repeat that, and he's determined. That's a very important success story. I will show you later some other examples, but let me tell you that while we watch and see the very possibility that negotiations will fail, we are adopting a new strategy. A strategy based on a combination of popular nonviolent resistance, creating a unified Palestinian leadership, creating an alternative economic policy to help people steadfast and survive, and combining that with a powerful international solidarity movement, including boycott, divestment, sanctions campaigns. We cannot change the balance of power unless we combine international support with actual resistance on the ground. Why? Because Israel is receiving huge international support, not only from countries like the United States, but also from a big, huge network of support that they have. And we cannot balance that without repeating the same example of what was done against the apartheid system in South Africa. The medical relief, which I wanted also to tell you about, is an organization that was founded in 1979. Nobody helped us for more than 6-7 years. We relied only on our voluntary work, on people who would devote their weekends, their holidays, to go out and help the people who are underprivileged. We would organize mobile clinics, teams to help people with disability, mobile ophthalmic teams and other specialties, training and health education, health promotion, and then training of wonderful young people. We've trained during the last 10 years more than 60,000 first aid providers who volunteer whenever there are clashes or natural needs and provide care for the people who are isolated or the people who are injured. In this case, they are transporting sick people through checkpoints when cars were prevented from moving on the roads. Even when it's very dangerous, they go out and help people. We have had 425 of our workers and volunteers injured in one way or another, including myself, during the provision of medical care and health care to the people. But these are wonderful young people. They know that they have to serve their country, they know they have to be there for each other. And this voluntary health movement is an example of how powerful popular nonviolent resistance can be if it is adopted as a form of struggle against what's happening to us. Of course, we suffer. In this case, this is an example when the Israeli army threw a tear gas bomb at an ambulance. A young woman, her name was Isra Hudayhid, was hit in the head. She had a brain injury. She had weakness even in her arm and leg. But luckily, with rehabilitation, she is okay now, and she's back to work. She's back to helping people working in the same ambulance. There are lots of wonderful examples of excellent work that is done to help people. And this is something that I want you to know, that regardless of all the oppression and suppression we are subjected to, people are resilient, and people are there, and we're not going to go anywhere. We're staying there, and we will not accept to be slaves of occupation or apartheid. The road to the future is complex. Will it be still possible to have two states? I don't know. But whether it's one state or two states, one thing I am sure of, we will get our freedom eventually. We know that there can be no peace with settlement activities. We can have no peace when you have an Israeli government that is full of settlers who are colonialists or extreme people, declaring things like what Lapid was considered a moderate in the Israeli government. He recently made a speech in Washington Institute. He said the following. He said, anybody who supports Palestinians is supporting terrorism. It's simply The problem is that Palestinians hate the Jewish people and they need psychiatrists to help them. He also said, this is not a fight between David and Goliath, assuming, of course, that in this case Palestinians are the David, the weak part. But he said, no, it's exactly like the United States and the Qaeda. It's the Qaeda against the United States, and not David against Goliath. Of course, he says these things, but I responded to him by saying, well, there was a man called Nelson Mandela, a wonderful human being, who said when South Africa was freed from apartheid, he said two things. He said the Palestinian issue is the greatest moral issue of our time. He also said our freedom is not complete without the freedom of the Palestinian people. So to me, this is not the Qaeda versus USA. This is the beat against Nelson Mandela. Actually, it is injustice against justice. And whatever they do, it should be clear to us, to you, to everybody. We, the Palestinians, are not seeking only our freedom. We are also seeking the freedom of the Israelis themselves, because they will never be free as long as we are not free. They are hostage to the same system of apartheid. And as long as we are under this terrible oppression, they are also hostage to it. And that's why I say with great pride that our struggle is not only for our freedom, but to free them also from this oppression. And when we ask you to conduct BDS or show solidarity to Palestinians, it's not against Jewish people. It's not negating or denying in any way the suffering of Jewish people, whether during the Holocaust or the pogroms of Russia or in any other way. But that suffering happened not because of us. We had nothing to do with that oppression of the Jewish people. And that suffering of Jewish people represents no justification whatsoever for persecuting and oppressing Palestinians today. And I say that with the full confidence that we, the Palestinians, will never, ever accept this oppression or accept to live with a system of apartheid. We will never accept to be slaves of apartheid or occupation. We will get our freedom, and one day, together, we will celebrate it. Thank you.